Hello, Daily Duranie, and welcome to part 2 of American Science, where I use a very scientific method to rank the Duran Duran albums from top to bottom. Last week, I introduced you to the bottom of my list as well as how I was doing it. So if you missed that, check in the comments below, hit that link, get caught up. But today, we're going through the top 10 Duran Duran albums. If you missed last week and you just want a quick recap, Pop Trash, Thank You, Liberty, Paper Gods, Astronaut, Red Carpet Massacre, which kind of surprised me. I thought I would have that higher, and the Wedding album were at the bottom of my list. Does that mean the Wedding album is not in my top 10? Yes, it does. I know that is crazy for some people, but this is science, not my opinion, so I can't be wrong or something like that. Let's dive into the top 10. Kicking off our top 10, one of the side projects, Arcadia. So Red the Rose coming in at a 3.27, just edging out the Wedding album, which we talked about in last week's show. Songs 3.11 for me, not quite as good as Red Carpet Massacre, but a lot of the other factors actually elevated this into the top 10 for me, starting with the artwork. Very artsy and pretentious, just like the project itself, which I thought was fantastic. Videos 3.5. Dark, gothic, same with the fashion. I thought both worked really well. As you're coming out of Duran Duran being the most popular band in the world, you need to do something different if it's going to be a true side project, and I think they did that successfully. Nostalgia, just 3.0 for me. Didn't love this project at the time. I was definitely more into Power Station, but I do remember being very excited to get my dad to pick me up from basketball practice, and he had picked up the cassette at the mall so I could hear it immediately on release day. 3.27 is my overall score for So Red the Rose. Favorite song would definitely be The Promise, because you can hear David Gilmour's guitar playing, and I definitely still missed Andy Taylor at this point. Coming in at number 9 on the list, Medazzaland. Songs 3.0 starts to lose a little steam as you go through the record, but the first half of it, absolutely fantastic. I thought Big Bang Generation was great. Electric Barbarella, fantastic single. Out of My Mind kind of points the way to where they might have been going when they got to Pop Trash. Everything through Silver Halo and Be My Icon, I'm right there with them. And then things start to lose a little bit of steam, gets a little too more mid-tempo-ish as it goes through the rest of the album. For video, 4.0 for me. Out of My Mind, actually super creepy, kind of captures some of the aesthetics they were doing with Arcadia. And Electric Barbarella, I know is a bit controversial, but thought it had a great sense of humor. I think the entire Medazzaland project as a whole had a sense of humor that sometimes gets overlooked. Fashion, the suits look great, so 4.0 there. And Nostalgia, 3.0. One of the weirdest memories I have of Duran Duran is this CD. I was snowed in at work in Colorado after moving there. I had never experienced frozen windshields, so I had to use the Medazzaland CD case to scrape the ice off my windows to get home that night. So if nothing else, that is the weirdest memory I have with Duran Duran. So overall, Medazzaland 3.3, and we're getting higher and higher into the top 10. Next up on the list is 7 and the Ragged Tiger. Songs 3.44. I think at this point the band started to sound a little tired and the production was a little heavy. The Reflex was a decent single made great by a remix. New Moon on Monday, Union the Snake, fantastic singles, and The Seventh Stranger, one of the best songs they've ever recorded. But there's some low points in the album as well. Cracks in the Pavement, I Take the Dice, and Of Crime and Passion. To this day, still confuse me. I always forget which is which when they start. So there's some forgettable stuff there at times. Artwork 3.5. I wanted to love it at the time. I loved looking at all the symbols, trying to decipher them. I was a big Raiders of the Lost Ark fan, but overall the color wasn't there. The design just didn't blow me away. Video 4.0, mainly because Union the Snake was so much fun. I absolutely loved that video, and I had a lot of fun recreating New Moon on Monday using Google Maps, but not anything as spectacular as we found on the Rio album. Fashion 3.0, I didn't like all the dark colors. It seemed like a lot of black leather was happening. Andy was definitely going off on his own tangent. Nostalgia, though, it's a 4.0. This was the peak of them commercially in the US, and every single moment of every single day was all about waiting to hear them on the radio. So overall, 7 and a Ragged Tiger, 3.51 on the list, coming in at number 7. Next on the list, to my significant surprise, is Arena. This would be an example of where my personal taste and science went head to head, and science won. As far as songs go, 3.5. You have the iconic opening of Is There Something I Should Know? An intro that I wax on endlessly about on an upcoming episode of the D-Side, so stay tuned for that. Absolutely adore the live version of Save a Prayer as well as The Seventh Stranger. I always thought it was weird that Wild Boys fell in the middle of the record, but who cares? The video alone makes it worth the ride. That alone gives me a 4.5 for video. When I get to video, I think it's one of the most iconic videos in the history of MTV. It's a homoerotic Mad Max for the ages, and the band was dressing like Mad Max, which made it even extra cool at the time. So fashion 3.5. Nostalgia, this was the high point of commercial saturation for Duran Duran, so 4.0 there. They were everywhere from board games to home videos to everywhere on MTV. So at the end of the day, Arena gets a 3.7, putting it much higher on the list than I ever thought it deserved to be. Coming in number 6 on the list is Big Thing, and if we're just talking songs, I have that at a 3.8. So overall, that would be the 4th best album in the study, but we're going beyond just the songs. The artwork is a huge letdown when it comes to Big Thing 3.0. The big bright colors, the big letters, it just doesn't work. Videos, though, 4.0. All She Wants Is was a very groundbreaking video in the way they edited it. All She Wants Is probably my favorite, but Do You Believe in Shame I thought was very moody and captured the song perfectly. In terms of fashion, 3.5. They had some cool outfits, but also was getting a little sloppy, I think, at times. This might have been the period where Nick Rhodes dressed as a nun, in which case this probably should be a 6.0 because that's so freaking awesome. Nostalgia-wise, it was the first time I ever got to see him live. I saw him at the Miami Arena, so 4.0 there. I still love this album. I think it's held up really well. If they took Drug off the album and put I Believe on there instead, it might actually be the best Duran Duran album in terms of songs from front to back. So coming in overall at a 3.73, we have Big Thing. Perhaps another surprise on this list is the Power Station's debut album. Song-wise, 3.67. Some Like It Hot, Bang a Gong, Communication, all great songs. I love the Isley Brothers cover Harvest for the World. And I was drinking at a tiki bar not long ago, and Go to Zero came on, and I kept going over my mind. I'm like, this is a great song. I forget who did this. I'm like, wait a second. Is this Power Station? So a lot of good stuff on this album. Murderous, I think, is one of the best rock songs that Andy was ever involved with. Artwork, the 80s aesthetic was strong there, but it's really not anything special, so 3.0. But videos, a rock solid 5. The Some Like It Hot video had incredible colors, and the Bang Gong video just took things over the top. Having the first transgender model featured in it even made it more interesting, I think. Fashion 4.0 kind of builds upon what they were doing with Seven and the Ragged Tiger, but these guys look like proper rock stars, whereas Nick never really fit in with that. So it was kind of good they both did their side projects. Nostalgia, this is the first concert I've ever seen, so it really should be a 5, but realistically it's a 4.0. Power Station surprising even me, coming in at 3.80 on the list. Coming in number 4 on the list is All You Need Is Now. I have to admit, even I was surprised how incredible a Duran Duran album the band could put together all these years later. Songs 3.69. I think Mark Ronson did a brilliant job. I know they were trying to make the quote-unquote sequel to Rio, but I think they really touch on all different aspects of the band's 80s work. All You Need Is Now, the title track. The chorus reminds me of New Moon on Monday, if you listen to the melody. Ending with Before the Rain, definitely echoes of The Chauffeur buried in that. Of course, Roger's work on Girl Panic, very reminiscent of Girls on Film. It's kind of a sister song to that. The Man Who Stole the Leopard, I know is a huge fan favorite for me. I always hear Tel Aviv buried deep within it. So a lot of great things happening there. The fashion, absolutely on point, 4.0. Video, 4.0 as well. I thought the title track was really well done, but Girl Panic really steals the show. Self-plug here, if you haven't been on Daily Duranie, look for my article, Boy Panic, where I go to the Savoy and actually seek out all the different parts of the hotel where the band filmed. Artwork Artwork 4.5, one of my favorite of all time in the Duran Duran catalog. I think the photography throughout is absolutely brilliant. Nostalgia 4.0 for me. Obviously, the connection of having visited the Savoy makes this a special album, but also seeing this tour and kind of reconnecting with my Duran Duran fandom, because I thought this was an album that really established them as just incredible band all these years later. Coming in number 3 on the list, one of the strongest albums the band has ever done, and that is Notorious, Songs 4.2. There is not a weak track on this album. I am still blown away that the singles did not do better. Skin Trade and Meet El Presidente, two of my favorite singles the band have ever done, and they just did not find commercial success. But this was a transition album. Roger left, Andy left, and they were transitioning out of that teenage pinup role that the world was captivated by and becoming a more serious band, and proving that after all this time the critics were wrong. This is a band that could flat out play great music. The funk, the rock, the pop, the synths, everything was happening in unison. Really incredible album. Winter Marches On, which if you haven't heard, go seek out Bittersweet Machine's recently released cover of this. It's absolutely beautiful, really captures the essence of the song. That was a brilliant addition to the album, but I really like a lot of the other stuff on here as well. American Science, A Matter of Feeling, just incredible. The videos, 3.5, maybe they weren't super exciting, but at the same time, they were performance-driven videos, and it was very important at that time to show that the band was doing something musically, and it just wasn't about image. Fashion 4.0 for me. I thought the band looked great. Artwork 4.5. Again, I thought it really established them as a band to be taken seriously. Nostalgia, I'll be honest with you, only a 3.0 for me, because at the time, this seemed like a big jump for me, and I wasn't old enough to fully appreciate it. Looking back now, I think it's absolutely incredible what they accomplished, but at the time, I was only 13. I was like, wait, where's all the cool videos? Where's the Raiders of the Lost Ark videos? Things like that. But looking back, this was the right album at the right time. So Notorious 4.02, number 3 on the list. The top 2 really never in doubt. Number 2 on the list, Duran Duran, the debut album. Songs 4.0, so many great things happening here, including little lost classics like Friends of Mine. Artwork 4.0, I think it's precisely what you want from a debut album. Image of the band, the words Duran Duran, which at the time we didn't really know what that meant. Almost like an invitation, come inside, this is going to be something new for our generation. Videos 5.0, obviously I was a young boy, so Girls on Film is going to blow my mind, but also found Careless Memories and Friends of Mine pretty charming in their own right, because they weren't super high budget, big productions, and that was kind of the enchantment of early MTV. Things were kind of thrown together and they weren't always as good as they could have been, and that made them that much better. Fashion 4.0, the new romantic look was fine at the time, but it wasn't where the band was headed. You knew they were going to be far more important than just that scene. And then Nostalgia 4.0. This is the album that drew me in. I always loved the original with To the Shore, because that's the first one I purchased on vinyl at the time at Town Center Mall in Boca Raton in the import section. So 4.10, there's not much more we need to say. It's their debut. It is a stone cold classic. We have reached the end of American Science with our number 1 Duran Duran album, and that is, of course, Rio. Songs 4.33. Most of the songs are either 5s or 4s, because there's not a weak track here. Artwork, videos, fashion, nostalgia, 5.0. This album captured the decade. It was the colors, it was the hope, it was the escapism. It is everything that made the 1980s such a wonderful decade to grow up in. Overall score 4.60. This is the pinnacle of the 80s when it comes to pop music as far as I am concerned. And that brings us to the end of American Science. If you've made it through 2 weeks worth of these little shows, thank you very much. To recount the album countdown, the bottom of the list was Pop Trash, followed by Thank You, Liberty, Paper Gods, Astronaut, Red Carpet Massacre, The Wedding Album, Arcadia, Medazzaland, Seven and the Ragged Tiger, Arena, Big Thing, The Power Station, All You Need Is Now, Notorious, the debut Duran Duran, and our number 1, Rio. So thanks again for tuning in to Daily Duranie. I'm Velvet Rebel. We'll see you again soon.